In today's video, we're going to take a look at the uTorch UT01. Gearbest sent this one to me for review, so let's take it apart, take a look at it, test it out, and see how well it does compared to all our other lights. So after reviewing this light, there's 5 main things I want to point out. The first thing is that you must use a very good 14500 lithium ion battery. I'm using a Sanyo, and it's probably one of the best ones out there. 840 milliamp hours, and it can make this thing push out 852 lumens peak. And that's after some time. It probably pushes out over 900 right at the beginning. So this thing is actually a little bit more powerful than my on-the-road M3, and that's mostly due to its high efficacy LED since it runs at 6500 Kelvin. It's pushing out about 113 lumens per watt out the front, I think. The second most important thing about it is that when your lithium ion runs out, you can pop in a AA battery and you're good to go. It doesn't put out as much lumens. It's about 513, but that's still pretty respectable. If you use an alkaline battery, it'll be about 400 and something lumens, which is still pretty good for an alkaline battery. So this is everything that the on-the-road M3 is, plus it has the ability to use AA batteries. So this thing is very versatile, and if you need a flashlight that can work in any situation where you have to grab batteries from a gas station or Walmart or something, this one will give you that ability. Another thing is that it has a 2-minute turbo timer where it ramps down over 30 seconds after 2 minutes. It'll bring you down to medium without you even noticing. That'll keep the temperatures down, and if you hand this over to somebody who's not used to a powerful light, it won't get too hot and it won't burn their hands. That's a very good feature, especially if you want to give it away as a gift to someone who's going to use it with a AA battery. So this thing's good for high power users and also good for non-lithium ion users. I took this thing completely apart, and the build quality of it is awesome. The reflector has threads on it, so you can crank that down onto the LED, squeeze that thermal paste, and make it perform a lot better. It's got a high efficacy XPL. You don't know what it is, but it's probably right up there with the V5s or something. It definitely is outputting a lot of light compared to the on-the-road M3, which is the quality XML2 on there. It has double gold-plated tail springs, and that just goes to show that they're trying to make a very good quality light. The machining's really good. The glass lens on the front has an anti-reflective coating, so they've gone the extra mile for all the parts on this flashlight. Water can get into the side switch if you submerge it for too long, but against splashing water or rain, I think it'll be fine. If you're working all day with this thing in the rain, that's probably a little too much for it. So based on the in-depth review I did on this flashlight, it's highly recommended, and it's definitely good value for your dollar. Because if you throw in a Sanyo 14500, you can get about 45 minutes of good runtime, the first 2 minutes of turbo, and even if you put a AA battery in there, you're still going to get 2 minutes of high output, 513 lumens. So as you see in this graph, both batteries give you pretty good performance, and they both have quite a bit of runtime, even on medium when it drops down to medium. It's still a lot of light, 400 lumens approximately, and that gives you plenty of light for 45 minutes. If you're on the side of the road doing some repairs, it'll definitely give you the light that you need. And I just want to warn you that if you put in a crappy fire battery, it will not last very long. And look at this short graph it's got. It's got very short output. It does give you quite a bit of output at the beginning, but then it just drops off and it's crappy fire, so you lose all your output. Look at it compared to the AA battery. A AA battery gives you way better performance. There's no point in using a crappy fire battery in any flashlight that you own. So get rid of anything that says the word fire on it. They're all garbage fire batteries. Just throw them all out and get rid of them. So that's the first 5 highlights for this flashlight. Please stay tuned for the briefing and the in-depth review if you want to learn more about this thing and see how it performed in the testing. So I'm going to break this into 2 parts. A review briefing for those who just want to know everything about the light, and then I'm going to do an in-depth review to look at all the little details and see how everything comes together. So let's dive into the briefing. In the middle here, you'll see the manufacturer ratings, and then my findings are on the right. So they state it's 800 lumens, and I tested it to put out about 800 lumens, so that's pretty impressive. The throw distance falls a little bit short of what they say, 100 meters, but I guess they probably just rounded it up from 93 meters. They say the max beam intensity is 2500 candela, and I measured it at 2175, so that's not too far off. Now the group modes is a really funny thing. If you hold the button down for over 5-6 seconds, you'll actually jump between group mode 1 and group mode 2. It's the same as the uTorch UT02, and they kind of hid those groups in there because the manual doesn't really go through that. If you stay tuned in the in-depth review, I'll actually go through how those work. Their maximum runtime was 171 hours. By my calculations, it runs about 100 hours on a nickel metal hydride and 34 hours on a lithium ion. It only lasts 34 hours with a lithium ion, and that's because the lowest mode is a little bit higher because it has a higher voltage, so it won't end up lasting as long. They say it's water resistant down to 2 meters for submersion, IPX8, but I tested it and water got in through the side switch because it's just a little rubber insert that's not screwed in there or pressed in there or anything. It's just kind of friction fitted. So I would derate this thing, and it's only good for using in the rain and letting a little bit of water drip on it. I wouldn't put it underwater or use it extensively in rain. Its impact resistance is fine at 2 meters. You can drop this thing and it won't break. I've dropped it many times. It uses 2 PCB boards and it separates the electronics from where the battery hits. So if you drop it, the battery won't punch and damage any of your components. Its weight comes in at 36 grams empty, and when you put a 14500 in there, it's 50 grams, which is very low compared to any other light. That's why it makes a great everyday carry. You can have it in your pocket and you won't even notice it. It's the size of a chapstick and it's pretty light. The LED is an XPL, which is a great LED, and it's the 1A or 6500 Kelvin version. That light is punched out with the medium orange peel reflector through a glass lens that has an anti-reflective coating. When you're using it with 14500 lithium ions, make sure your batteries are unprotected and about 51 millimeters long. If it's longer than 51 millimeters, the cap can't screw in and you can't use that battery. There's some protected batteries that are probably 51 millimeters long, but most protected batteries will be longer than that. So it's pretty safe to say that this thing can only use unprotected batteries. But just make sure your batteries are less than 51 millimeters long. It comes with a nice cardboard box. Good presentation, so you can give it away as a gift. Comes with a pocket clip, a lanyard, and 1 spare O-ring. The user interface is very easy to use. It's just a side switch. A lot of flashlights have a twisty or a button on the back, and those are very hard to use. I'd say this one is one of the easiest flashlights to use, kind of like the on-the-road M3, because it uses a side switch for on-off and just changing modes. So I'd say it's great ergonomics, and the tail's flat so you can tail stand it. The color temperature of mine is 6500 Kelvin, which is pretty cool white and very kind of bluish. But that gives you a higher output and more glare. So if you're using it for dark alleys and stuff, it works very well. There's a 5000 Kelvin option, and if you want a more natural white, not so bluish, definitely get that one. The output will be a little bit less and it won't seem as bright, but the quality of the light will be better. So I think if you want good quality light, definitely get the 5000 Kelvin. On the extreme of that, you can get something like 3000 or 2700 and get a very nice warm white light. Something with a high CRI. Very nice light. And through my calculations and measurements, I'd say it's pushing about 113 lumens per watt. And that's out the front, so that's very impressive. The maximum power of this flashlight is about 7.14 watts, which is not groundbreaking or anything, but it is pretty good for a light this size. And that's with the lithium ion. With the AA battery, that's nickel metal hydride, it won't push 7 watts, it'll be more like 5. The beam angle is representative of M3s or the S2 pluses, 25 beam, 50 field, 82 peripheral. The beam intensity profile is similar to the M3 and the Convoy S2 Plus, so you can light up trails quite well, but you won't be able to light up very far down the field, and it's more suited for close to narrow usage. So you can use it to work on your car, walk around the sidewalks or in the trails. You can even use it in your house, but I wouldn't use it for long distance like a searchlight or a spotlight. It cannot do any of those. We took it apart and checked the quality of all the pieces, and I'd say this thing has excellent build quality with great threading. The reflector is high quality. It's as good as the UT02's quality, I say, and that reflector is one of the best. The reflector actually has threads on it, so you can crank that down right onto the LED and make everything nice and secure, and make sure that thermal paste is squeezed so you can get all that heat out of the LED. That's how they get the high output and reliability. The one thing I didn't like is that the side switch, the rubber part is not sealed, it's just pushed in there, and that can be a spot where water can leak into the flashlight and damage it. So if they're looking for a way to make this flashlight better, I'd say put some silicone in there when you put the button in, and make sure that no water can get in there. Now the pulse width modulation frequency and the percent flicker are great in this thing, 6,546 Hertz. It only flickers 35%, and its flicker index is calculated at 0.1, which is very, very low, and that means it's good. 1.0 is the worst flicker index, and 0 is the best, so it's right beside 0. This thing even has great low battery protection for your lithium ions. So you can put unprotected in there and they won't damage it because it reduces at 2.8 volt and it turns completely off at 2.6 volts. This thing is not very customizable because the driver is proprietary and you can't increase its output because it's a boost driver and a buck driver at the same time basically. Those things are purpose built and you won't be able to modify it with just a simple resistor mod. But the LED is an XPL with a dome, so you can easily cone dome it or de-dome it if you want a better thrower. Later in this video, I'll show you how I cone dome it, and the results of that are very promising. It gave it a hotter hotspot, higher candela intensity, and its throw distance increased marginally. It has a 2-minute turbo timer, so this is still a very high-powered light. It gets very hot like all high-powered LED lights, but I'd rather have a small light that can be powerful when I want it to be powerful than not powerful at all. So it's good they have the turbo timer in there, but it still gets hot. So you just got to be careful with this light. They've priced this light very well, and the pre-sale price is $23.95, and this light is a steal at that price. If this thing goes up to $29.99, it's still a good deal, and I'd still recommend purchasing it. This is a very versatile light, and it's very impressive, so I'd say the value for your dollar is excellent. Now the main purpose of this light is for everyday carry, so you can put a lithium ion or a AA in it, put it in your pocket, and you're good to go. Anytime you find yourself in the darkness, you're going to have that light with you. It's a good glove box light too, but if you're going to put it in the glove box, don't put an alkaline or a lithium ion in there, because the lithium ion can explode and the alkaline can leak. But nickel metal hydrides are perfect for hot temperatures, so put a AA nickel metal hydride in there. I recommend Duracell over any other brand. And if it's a low discharge nickel metal hydride, you can leave that in there all year and you'll still have 60% of your energy left. So it's perfect for that. And then if you're going to put it in a bag or a purse, definitely unscrew the tail a quarter of a turn or a full turn so that you can't accidentally turn it on. Unscrewing the tail is considered a mechanical lockout, and although it's not 100%, it's good protection for accidental activation and damage to the flashlight or anything inside your bag. Because this thing is high powered and it will melt plastic, so definitely make sure you're careful with it if you put it in a bag. Be diligent and unscrew that tail cap every time you put it into a bag. It only takes one accident for you to accidentally switch it on, for it to overheat, and for it to cause problems. So in conclusion, this thing is an awesome everyday carry, or you can give it away as a gift to people who just want to have a very powerful AA flashlight. They don't need to use lithium ions, they don't have to buy a charger. A lot of the high-powered flashlights I have use lithium ions, and that's not very suitable for a lot of people because you can't find lithium ions in grocery stores or gas stations, and sometimes if you got a long shift, you're going to run out of lithium ion and you've got no way to charge it, and usually you don't bring spares. AA's, they're everywhere, so this thing's perfect for anybody who works long shifts and has access only to AA nickel metal hydride or alkaline batteries. Now using the AA's, you only get about 63% of your maximum lumens, but that's still pretty good. You're not going to find any other light out there that uses one AA battery and puts out this many lumens. It's because the boost driver has to be high quality and has to boost up that voltage and still put out a lot of amps. And for them to fit that into something this size, it's pretty amazing. So if you're looking for a very versatile everyday carry that's small, very powerful, has a lot of features, has 13 different modes, has a turbo timer, has strobe, SOS, memory, then this is definitely the flashlight to get. So this to me makes a good everyday carry, and I think this is one of the best everyday carry choices out there. My all-time favorite is the On The Road M3, but that uses a 16340 battery only, and you can't find those everywhere. You can buy the CR123As at some places, but it's not as common, and most people don't want to pay $10 for a battery. So although the M3 is about the same size, the UT01 is still the winner as an everyday carry because of its balance between versatility and high output. So that's basically the UT01 in a nutshell. Now let's move on to our in-depth review and take a very close look at each one of these items. Now I've got 3 comparison charts. So this is the first one. You could pause it and take a look at it. I'm only going to talk about 2 items out of this, and then I'll go on to the next one, talk about a couple items, and then go into the next one, the third one, and talk about a couple items. If you want to compare anything and look at it in detail, just pause it and then you can take a closer look at it. So here I just want to show you that its maximum power is 7 watts. Using that high efficacy XPL LED and the high quality reflector, it's able to push out all that light without using up a lot of power. That's what makes it a good trail light or sidewalk light. It can maintain that small size so you can be an everyday carry and be very effective at lighting your surrounding area. Now we're going to go on to the next graph, so you can pause it here if you want to take a look at anything else. In this graph, we more focus on the beam intensity profile. It's not much of a thrower, so it's very flat, and then you'll see how that works out in the beam shots after all these comparison tables. We'll go through all these beam shots. Basically, I rate it similarly to the M3 because its distribution is about the same. The M3 has a little bit more rated punch, but even in the field, it doesn't make much of a difference. They both perform the same in the field. The On The Road M3 can get to the highest mode anytime by double tapping from off, from on, from strobe, anything. It'll go to the maximum mode anytime you double click it. And I think that's an important feature to have, and I would have gave the UT01 5 out of 5 stars if it had that. So that's one thing they can improve on. So on the left side, you'll see your normal modes, Moonlight, low, medium, high. And then on the right side, you'll see your additional strobe and SOS and weird modes like that. It should be noted that there's 2 group modes in this flashlight. The simple one, and then I'll call it group mode 2, which has all these breathing modes and stuff. To switch between the group modes, just hold the button for more than 5 seconds, and then it'll blink, and that means you're in group mode 1, or it'll blink twice, and that'll mean you're in group mode 2. So So this is high, and I've locked the exposure. Now you can compare medium, low, and Moonlight to this one. So to turn it on and off, you simply press the button for half a second. So you can get it onto high and get it off. That's the simple operation of this flashlight, and that's all you really need to know. They made it so you can easily get to Moonlight, but that's not memorized. So you see in the top left of the page, there's that line. I'll quickly press it. We'll get to Moonlight, and then if you hold it for half a second, you'll turn it off. So now you can always use the light in Moonlight. So if you're walking around your bedroom or you're camping, you can just turn it off by holding it more than half a second. So that's pretty handy. And you can memorize low, medium, or high. Right now it's memorized on high, so anytime I hold it for more than half a second, you get back to high. If you want to set that to low, you can either go to Moonlight mode and click once, and now we're on low. If you turn that off, anytime you go back to your memory mode, it's going to be on low. So those are the modes: Moonlight, low, medium, and high. So here's a warning to the people who don't want to see strobe. I'm going to go through the strobing modes now, so you can jump ahead to the next section. I'll leave a link in the description so you can jump ahead. You can get to strobe from Moonlight, so you click it to Moonlight, you double click, or you can go to low, medium, or high and double click, or from off, you double click. They all go to strobe. Watch. So now we're in strobe. We can hit it one more time to get to SOS. Then you do another quick click to get to beacon. And beacon is about 47 beats per minute or something. So that's group mode 1. Let's get to group mode 2 and show you the fancy modes. Now we're in group mode 2. So we have 9 different strobe modes. Here we go again into strobe. I'm going to quickly go to SOS, beacon, high, all that stuff. So here's SOS. We've got our beacon. We've got our high. And then the next one's like an SOS in medium mode instead of high. So your battery's going to run a little longer in this SOS. But it should still be bright enough for people to see you far enough away. Then you've got your breathing mode, I'll call it. And this one's from Moonlight. The reason I call it breathing mode is because it goes from Moonlight and increases twice and jumps back to Moonlight and just keeps repeating that. So it's kind of like a glowing LED deal. The next one starts from low and just breathes up like that. The next one goes from medium and breathes up from that. And the next one goes from high, slowly increases, as you can see. So it's kind of jumping between 3 modes there. And then we click it again, we go back to strobe. And then Moonlight, low, medium, high. They all work the same in both group modes. So there you go, there's group mode 1 and 2. That's how you get between the 2 group modes. So it's a pretty feature-rich flashlight with 2 group modes, a bunch of different modes, weird breathing modes. It's not super complicated like the Olight S1R, but it's got enough modes to make you happy, I think. I like flashlights that can get to high from any mode, like double clicking it and it always goes to that high mode. But this is not bad because you can always get to the high mode from your memory. It's not ideal because you might accidentally click it and now you're on Moonlight instead of high, and then you can't get to it really quickly. You can always quickly get to strobe, and I don't really like that because it kind of strobes yourself in the face, makes it so you can't see that well. It's better to be able to get to turbo or high. So I'd give this user interface a 4 to 5 stars because you can't get to high from Moonlight that easily. And if you want high, you want high. You don't want to be clicking through different modes. So it's a pretty good user interface, but I'd say they could improve by making the double click go to high from any other mode. Off, Moonlight, strobe, whatever. So we're done on the second table. Let's move on to our third table now. The low battery protection is really good. It reduces to like Moonlight at 2.8 volts, and that's great because this thing can only use unprotected cells basically. But since it has the protection circuit built into the driver, you don't really need that protection circuit on the cell, so that's perfect. There's no USB charge port, unfortunately, but that doesn't matter because you can replace the batteries in 2 seconds. I think it's more important that you can replace it with a AA than to be able to charge it with a USB port. I use this one when I go out because it is thinner than the M3, not by much, but just enough so it doesn't bulge out of your pocket. So if you're wearing tighter jeans than usual and you're going out in the evenings, it's going to be dark. You might have to hail a cab or walk across a busy street. You can pull this thing out and light up the entire street with it. Well, just in front of you, I mean. It's very bright so people will be able to see you. I think cars that are driving around will appreciate it if you pull this thing out and use it kind of like a headlight. They'll be able to see you. You can see them. It's a lot safer for everybody. So I'd say the value for the dollar is 5 out of 5, most definitely. Again, in conclusion, based on all these items and this whole review, I'd say this thing is awesome. As awesome as the other lights, and even more versatile than the on-the-road M3 or S2 Plus. Not as bright, but it makes up for that with all the versatility. Now let's take a closer look at all the beam shots in the trail and in the field. First, we'll start with the trail, so we can show you how it compares to all the other lights there. I've got the UT01 on the left, and the M3 on the right. So this is the UT01, this is the M3. UT01 here. So if I flick back and forth, you can quickly see how they compare. They look about exactly the same in distribution. The M3 is just a little warmer in color temperature. So I'll point right in front of us now. So you can see that they are basically the same thing. They're basically the same size as well. So it's really preference in what kind of button pushes you want and user interface, all the features, all that stuff. Let's compare it to the 348. And the 348 can't go anywhere but right in front of you. Can't really even spill to the left and right. So this is only good for very short walks, short distances. And then the trusted S2 Plus here. And this is a warm white LED, so that's why it looks so warm in the camera. But it's about as bright as those last two lights, the M3 and the UT01. This is a good utility light, and I think all of them have similar utility distribution, so not a thrower, not a flooder, kind of a mix of both. And then here's the insane Convoy L6, which blows everything out of the water. If you need a thrower and a powerful light, this one will do it. 3800 lumens it's rated for. Look at that hot spot. And it's a big light, so it doesn't get hot that quickly, and so you can actually go on long walks and produce a lot of light with this thing. And here's my upgraded Xanflare F1. This is flare mode, and I've jumpered the current limiting resistor, so it is as bright as this thing's going to get. As you can see, it's pretty powerful and lights up almost everything. It lights up that bridge pretty well as well. And here's the Skyray King. So as you can see, it has more light to the left and right, but it illuminates medium to far just about the same as that Xanflare. And then here's the UT02. This is a thrower of a light, and as you can see, that beam even outdoes the L6, but that's all it does. It doesn't throw much light here or out to the sides like the L6 does. All of the light goes straight down the middle, and it doesn't make a very good walking light because you're going to be walking around and you can just see this one dot. It's like a laser. You don't want to be walking around with a laser. But if you want to see far away, this one will do it. So you can light up that bridge like nobody's business. If anyone's coming over it, you'll see their face, you'll recognize them. If you're searching around, looking at signs and stuff, looking into the dark areas, this thing will do it. There's some spill light, as you can see, but not a whole lot. And the UT01. This is kind of like the M3 and the S2 Plus, and it's the size of the M3, a little narrower. And the great thing is that it uses AA batteries. So it can't get out to that building, but it can light up quite a bit of the field, as you can see. So I'm pretty happy with the UT01. It's a good alternative for everyday carry because it uses AA's, and that's invaluable if you need a flashlight and the lithium ion's dead on you. You don't carry extras. But there's AA batteries in every office, every drugstore. Just pop in, grab a pack of 4, and away you go. That's what makes this light so great. L6. As you can see, it has a lot of throw, a lot of flood. It gets light everywhere. You can flood the entire field and see that building no problem. So anyone's across there walking around that building, you'll see them. And there's a sharp cutoff in the flood angle, but it's still wide enough so that it's useful. This is probably the most powerful light there is you can get for less than $100, and it is very powerful. I think there's someone over there walking around, probably wondering what the hell is going on. Here's the Zanflare F1. It can't really throw to that building, but you can kind of see the building. It has a lot of flood and fills up the entire field like a Skyray King would. So this is a very powerful light. Skyray King. And like I said, it doesn't have that much throw, lights up the entire field in one shot. Just the C8, lots of throw. All it basically lights up is the door on that building across the field. It's a very hot spot. Has a little bit of throw into the field angle, but not very much. Convoy S2 Plus, the utility light. It lights up a good portion in the middle of the field, but it struggles at that building. You can't really see much at that building. So this is good for halfway across. That's about it. UT02. This thing is a throwing beast. So you can see that doorway, no problem on that building. And it's like the C8 basically. It doesn't throw much to the field angle, but it's great at seeing one little spot really, really far away. It's a thrower, and that's all it's good for basically. Here's the M3. Basically the same as the S2 Plus. Lights up the medium portion of the field, but can't really punch it out to that building. And it has a lot of field angle and throws a lot of light into the peripherals. We've got our tiny 348. It's small, but it's quite powerful for what it is, for how tiny it is. It's lightweight, and it does light up a little bit across the field. So if you can pick that up on the camera, that's actually pretty good. So that wraps it up. I hope those beam shots show you what these lights can do. Thanks for watching, and I hope that helps. To cone dome it, you can either put it down on a piece of wood and secure it using a screw, or you can hold it with your hand and use magnifying glasses and slice straight down. If you hold it from the side like this, you can easily see where your straight blade's cutting down, and you can make sure you don't hit the base of the LED or the conductors or phosphor. So you can cut a straight line like this, turn it a bit, cut another straight line, turn it a bit, cut another straight line, and as you can see, if you keep doing that, you're going to have a nice straight cut all the way through, and it's going to end up perfectly right there because you're not going to go too deep like this, and you're not going to do too shallow like that. You can do it right where it interfaces. And you can touch it a tiny bit, it won't affect it, but you don't want to touch it in there too far, otherwise you'll hit the conductors. So just cut it in like that. Don't cut halfway and then lift up. If you cut halfway and then lift up, it'll peel it away, and that can damage the conductors. So you want to cut straight down, nice and clean, every time. And you create your cone dome just like that. So as you can see here, I've got it turned on a little bit, and you can see a lot of lamp image from the sides. That means it's throwing a lot of light out the sides. At about 20 degrees, it's still throwing a lot of light. And look all the way around where the reflector is going to sit. It's throwing a lot of light. So I think this is going to make a good thrower. And from right over top, you can see it's not really that big. That means it's not throwing that much light out the front and wasting it, flooding the area. It's throwing the majority of the light out to the side here, no matter how many degrees you come from. It's throwing a lot of light out to your reflector. That is the magic of the cone dome. Look at that, right down low, you're getting a lot of light. That means all this light's going to bounce off your reflector and go straight down the middle. If you de-dome, like use gasoline and rip the dome right off, you're going to have a flat image right here. That means not a lot of light's getting thrown off to your sides, and that means your reflector's not getting all the light it can get, and you're not going to get a nice strong intense beam down the middle. For throwers, the cone dome is exactly what you want.